Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back into another episode of Talking Shop. Today, with the legend, the director of purchasing at Dave and Adams, has spent millions, quite possibly tens of millions of dollars on purchasing collections and cards. And he came in today to teach us what he's learned. His name is Reed Kasaoka, and he really laid it all out for us. So I know you're going to enjoy it. I grew up such a fan of sports memorabilia and sports cards, and I'm really excited that this show is both going to highlight that as well as the awesome entrepreneurs that make it all possible. Let's do it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back into another episode of Talking Shop. Today, we have yet another legend of the business in Reed Kasaoka. Welcome into the show. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, man. Nice to meet you.
Likewise. So I want to start off where you grew up. You grew up in Hawaii. How did you get into sports cards and the memorabilia world from that kind of a background?
So I grew up in the mid 80s, when I was a teenager, and, we all collected cards, all my friends. And by the time I got to high school, it became a business. And one of the great things about becoming a dealer is that you always need fresh inventory. Well, I had an entire school to choose from. And so I would end up buying collections for my friends and friends of friends and even some teachers because, everyone needs money. Guys my age at the time needed money for their car or to take girls out on dates. And so I always had the ability to buy stuff to turn around and sell at shows. And then it kind of just snowballed from there. I mean, it's a series of fortunate circumstances, doing shows, finding a job after high school, before going to college, working there in the summer and working at a card shop during my breaks, and then opened up my own card shop in Hawaii. And then 15 years ago, joining Dave and Adams, moving to Buffalo, and then working for another company, Baseball Card Exchange, in between. And then last year I came back to Dave and Adams. So it's slowly working my way up and kind of adding my experiences to everything. And now I get to be where I am right now.
Well, that's a lot of experiences, and I love the geographical journey as well as the journey within the industry. So that's all amazing. From your first card store, the first card store you worked at after college, I believe. What did you remember doing at that shop? Like, what were you helping out with?
So working at a shop throughout college, it was pretty much like, I'm there to help out during my breaks, so I had time go in there, help customers. My boss was only interested in selling cards, like packs and boxes, comics, and supplies. He didn't want to carry singles. It wasn't his thing. And so it just so happens that I used to sell singles. And so
Yep.
I held my own de facto business within a business. So, I'd get paid to be there, but I also be able to buy and sell singles as I saw fit. So like, why wouldn't I want to have that job? It was the perfect storm. So I learned not only how to deal with customers in a retail setting, which is not exactly my forte, but I also learned the ins and outs of running a business. I mean, he showed me the entire blueprint. He showed me about, how to manage your inventory, how to manage your expenses, and then going to college for business, it all made sense because I could apply real life, a real life scenario to what you're learning in school. And that made it easy for me to want to open my own store after I finished college.
That's amazing. It's awesome that you got the experience before you were out as well. I mean, that's huge. Do you remember at the time what some of the bigger singles you were dealing with were?
Yeah, so in the early to mid 90s, it was definitely basketball was big. 86 player basketball from the early 90s to the mid 90s, exploded in price essentially, where you're going from a few $100s a box to several $1,000s a box. I think basketball was big because Jordan was winning, and when baseball went on strike in '94, it kind of conceded that baseball isn't the only thing, that there are these other sports that people want to collect as well. And so, we rode high on selling, basketball, Jordan stuff. Star Company basketball was huge for a while before, the counterfeits or the second run started coming out. And, while we did sell hockey and football, basketball was king for a while. And then, by the time the late 90s came around, that was the McGuire Sosa stuff. And that kind of drew everybody back in.
Got it. So at the time in the early 90s, what were Jordan rookies going for? Or was that even a huge thing yet?
It was. I mean, by the time he won his first championship in '91, it also coincided with Beckett basketball, being released. The thing about collectibles in the '80s is until there was a price guide, nobody really cared. And
Yeah.
when Beckett came out with basketball, football, and hockey, it legitimized those sports like no other because people like to see what something is worth. They want to read those price guides. And so, by the time I graduated high school in '92, I believe Jordan rookies were like $600, $700, and it always came down to condition. And at the time, condition wasn't such a big thing. It was all about having it, but not to the level it is today, where anybody can have a Jordan rookie. Can you have a nice Jordan?
Right. Yeah, it's a world apart, as you know. What were some of the lessons you learned from opening up your own shop?
Well, I guess when it comes to owning your own business, you got to learn how to separate yourself as a collector and then as a business person. And so if you have an undying need to want to open packs and open boxes, as a what's going to happen is in a few years you're going to call me and say, Reed, I'm broke. I need to sell my inventory. And that's pretty much what I do from time to time is I buy stores that go out of business. And invariably the person who went out of business had a pack busting problem or a gambling problem in that sense. So once you learn how to not open packs as a store owner, you pretty much conquered, I would say 80% of being a baseball card store owner. And the rest of it is just knowing how to run a business properly, how to manage your inventory. Sometimes that just takes practice. You got to learn. You got to get burned. You got to get in over your head once in a while to really learn the lesson. And so I got better at that over the years. And then it's being able to acquire product knowledge. You got to stay ahead of things because you have to know not only what will sell in the future. Not like you predict who's going to do well or whatever, but understand what's going to sell in the future. And then the product knowledge is also important too because there are scammers. There are scammers out there who will try to screw anybody, including card shop owners who you think would know better, but you can't know everything. So it's being able to become an expert at the market and what you do, because people look to you for advice. They look to you for suggestions. They want to know that you can be helpful, not just to find them stuff, but to help educate them and become a better collector.
Definitely. Now, if you could go back and give yourself right before you open the shop one piece of advice, what would you tell yourself?
Don't sell 96 Topps Chrome basketball.
That's a great one.
I'll give you a good story. My business partner and I were working at the shop before we started our own shop. We were running a little thing on the side, taking some money, investing it, rolling it over to try to come up with some seed money. Mm-hmm. Well, when 96 Chrome basketball came out, it was a retail only. And I believe it's only Sam's Club or a Walmart version or Walmart or Sam's Club. Well, in Hawaii, at the time, there was only one Sam's Club. My business partner just happened to walk into Walmart or to Sam's Club when they came out. And so all 90 boxes in Hawaii ended up in his cart. And this is before we had cell phones. We're using a payphone, calling me back, having a third person come and take the money to him. And I'm also calling around trying to start flipping boxes immediately. I wish I had a cell phone back then to take pictures of it because I had 90 boxes at one time at $49.99 a box.
Oh my God.
And we were getting $70 a box, before you could even make it back to the store. By the end of the week, we were getting $100 a box. And I believe we sold out of all the boxes when it was about $400 a box. Now, there's no way I would have kept it all that time. That was seed money to start a store. But, should we have kept a few? Yeah, of course. But I can tell you that there's a bunch of people in Hawaii who are still sitting on their box after 25 years.
What are they going for now?
I haven't looked lately, but I bet with whole Kobe passing away and the whole Jordan thing going on right now, I bet boxes are $5,000 a box. Hey man, I know how to buy and sell. I didn't say I knew how to invest.
No, I love that. Yeah, no, it's super interesting, talking to you as somebody who opened, a shop in what I would imagine is kind of the best era for owning a shop, because after that, things, I imagine, maybe it was a little bit later, but started slowly and slowly turning into online. At what point did you kind of realize that that was going to be the future of the industry?
Well, having that, between the time I opened my store in '97 and the time that I moved to Buffalo to work for Dave and Adams in 2004, I'd got to know both Dave and Adam just doing business together. Ironically, flipping Jordan autographed jersey cards from the '98, '99 set. And
Very
so,
nice.
I knew that they were they were big into mail order, and they were one of the first companies to start an internet business. And so I could see it happening firsthand. My business model in Hawaii is a little different. We're in the middle of nowhere. If you want to mail order, it takes a while to get there. You can walk to my store and get instant satisfaction. So it was a different business model, but I could
Totally.
see growth of what Dave and Adams had become. And when I moved there in 2004, I could feel it firsthand. I mean, I'd go out, buy product, bring it back to the office, you put it up, and you start selling stuff within the hour. You come in after a long weekend and you see all the orders just pile up of all the stuff that you bought. Can't get it fast enough sometimes. I mean, it's unbelievable how quick things sell when you can reach the entire world just by putting it online.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. And it's cool too to hear that you were kind of satisfying that impossible immediate need in Hawaii. Because how long does it take for someone, if they wanted to order something, especially back then, to actually get it there?
There's always been UPS 2 day to Hawaii, but that always comes with a big additional fee.
Got it.
I don't think they had ground at that time. There was like UPS Select or something. But nowadays you can order stuff UPS ground, but like if you're ordering from the East Coast to get to Hawaii, it's still going to take you over a week. So you as cheap as something might be, the fact that you have to wait, that kind of goes against the whole satisfying someone's urge to want to open product, open a box or open a case of something. So if you have the product and you're available to sell it right then and there, you have a good chance of getting business. And it's not like you're out there to gouge them, but you can get more than what it's going for online.
Totally. Yeah, that's an interesting point. That's smart. I want to talk a little bit more about Dave and Adams. What do you think, through all of your time working with them, differentiates the company?
Well, I'd say it's because we're so large that we have buying power. We're able to put together deals that a lot of different companies can't do, and it allows us to diversify our inventory. I mean, one of the powerful things about being able to buy so much stuff is that if you have a lot of a product that somebody else could use, like another dealer could use, you can always trade with them, and diversify your inventory, and while keeping your original cost into the product low. And so that's allowed us to trading has been allowed us to diversify our inventory, especially our current inventory. And then the other things that we do, like me, I deal more in the vintage, unopened, and vintage singles. We have comic buyers, we have toy buyers, we have gaming buyers. It all kind of adds to that one-stop shopping for collectibles. I
Mm-hmm.
think we do that well. Other than that, I guess, how do I say this? I guess it's over time it's evolved into this company that just kind of grew to this. It's an enormous size company. There's like 80 employees, and it's got to the
Whoa.
where we want to do everything and hopefully try to do it well. And I think we're one of the big success stories in the hobby.
That's awesome.
So with David Adams, like I think after I was there a year in like 2005, a retail store, an IGA store, which people know of Middle America, it's like the small little supermarkets, and IGAs their buying power is other small supermarkets around the country pool their resources together to buy groceries and whatever. And so this IGA store in the middle of Illinois had been putting product in the back of their, I guess their freezer in the empty space of there, because the woman who ran it and her brothers used to collect as kids. And so she called me like at 4:00 on Friday. Like I'm surprised I answered the phone to this day, because I was ready to go out the door for the weekend. a week later, she sent me a list, and she just sent me a list of boxes and cases, and the cases didn't have any writing. It's just the codes on the side, and I can see those codes and like, oh, I know what that is. I know what that is. Like, this can't be true, you know. So I go out there. I think it was the following month, and it took me 2 days just diving through the back of their walk-in freezer, finding boxes and cases, all this stuff. Nothing old, but like stuff in the 70s and 80s, just tons of it. I filled up a 16-foot truck, and it's just you wouldn't think it, but that's the whole mom and pop store, where they have all these things buried behind, and for whatever reason they forgot about it. I wish it was 50s and 60s stuff, but I was perfectly happy finding 70s and 80s stuff. And every time I pass through that area of the country, I stop by that same store. The ladies who do the bakery and prepare the food over there, they all know me. They make me brownies, and they still have stuff. There's still stuff to buy there.
Wow.
We bought their comics a few years ago. They keep finding stuff in one of the houses that's in the town. I've never divulged the name of the town because I don't want anyone to go there. But it keeps paying off dividends that there's still deals like that to be found.
That's an amazing story. And I love that they still make you brownies when you go by. That's probably the best part about it.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I'm like an honorary member of the town.
How do you think Dave and Adams has integrated itself into this new digital world? Because you said before that they were, mostly like mailing stuff, and this is, obviously you started before eBay was gigantic, and the ways that people buy are. How do you think Dave and Adams has integrated into like this digital social world?
Well, I think it's always tough to stay on top of what's happening, especially as the average age of our employees gets a little older. You're not quite aware of what's going on. I'm not the youngest employee there. I'm definitely not the oldest employee there. But to tell me about things like Instagram and Twitter or whatever, I know they exist. I kind of know what they do. You don't see me using them very often because I don't. It's not my thing. But learning how to use that, or having my coworkers explain to me and how to use these things to reach people, have been very important. The word gets out faster whenever you buy a great deal and you're gonna have stuff for sale. The word gets out faster whenever there's gonna be an upcoming sale or an upcoming promotion, and I can see how many hits that we get. It blows my mind because that's not me. But clearly, we have tens of thousands of customers, and that is their thing. They love it. They like the content that we put up, and we could do more. I always wonder: are we doing too much? Are we oversaturating? Our customers with incessant posts about different things that we have. But I'm a believer. In the past year or so, it's really blown my mind how much quicker we can get to our customers, even if they're not there to buy every little last thing. The fact that they're aware of that we do these things, the fact that we have these promotions, it's just good to stay in their forefront. And I think we've done a good job of reaching people, whether it's doing social media posts, whether it's doing the online breaks, or just any sort of even cross promotions with different companies.
That's amazing. Yeah, and to your point, whether you question oversaturating, the answer is when it comes to cards and things people love, never.
I agree. I know for me, people who have followed me over the past several years, even when I was at Baseball Card Exchange before, the one thing that they like that I do is when I go on buying trips, I'll try to post daily or almost daily of the places that I'm going, the things that I've bought. Sometimes I'm doing impromptu photo shoots in the back of the truck, just like stacking up stuff in unpacking the box while it's in the truck, just to show what I bought. Because it's really hard to do this stuff in somebody's house. It's their house. I'm not trying to take pictures of somebody's house and post it on the internet. But by showing what I do for a living in sort of real time, in the places I get to go, the things I get to see, people absolutely love it, because in some ways, a lot of people, a lot of collectors, would like to do what I do for a living. They would love my job.
What I was so amazed by is when the stock market crashed, the card market went. It's just, I'm blown away.
The relationship between the stock market and the card market is an interesting one, because especially I think in the last 10 or 15 years, you know, people always talk about when the stock market goes down and you're going to hit a recession, people talk about diversifying their investments. Now, I always thought that just applied to rich people, you know, but
Hmm.
even an average citizen has to think about, well, what am I going to do if my 401k isn't worth as much, or my just the money that I have invested, like in my house, isn't worth that much either. How can I diversify? Well, you know, I think it was about 10 or 11 years ago, it was gold and silver. You know, that became a huge thing. You remember there were gold and silver stores everywhere, people trying to buy that stuff.
Yeah.
And while that's
Yeah.
still
That's
while that's
clear.
still a thing, you know, people are starting to believe that sports cards is a good way to investment alternative. You know, it's fun to invest because nobody wants to hold a piece of paper that says you own this many shares of a stock, but they love to hold a card. They love to hold a jersey. They love to hold an open box of cards. And you know, a lot of the different things in the hobby have turned into commodities. They're very easily bought and sold. Not as easy as buying and selling stocks, but definitely much easier than it was, you know, even 15, 20 years ago.
Do you think, because I know The Last Dance has made, Jordan's overall value, whether it be his rookie cards or his autographs, anything Jordan, because people just, like you said, want to get closer to the guy who, especially for youngsters, it's like, yeah, LeBron's better than MJ, but, that's because they never saw MJ play, or MJ's better than LeBron, it goes both ways, but this whole generation, including mine, is discovering Michael for the first time, and that plus everybody else remembering, and getting real nostalgic, I think drives his value way up. Do you think it's going to hold at the level that it is, or continue to rise? Is MJ a good investment?
Well, there's got to be a little pullback. I mean, right now it's such an feverish pace that it can't be kept up. However, I am a firm believer, and there is some evidence behind this, that stuff associated with players from the 80s and 90s is having like a renaissance, and is gonna continue to rise in popularity, and then therefore the values may continue to rise as well. Because the way I see it is, when I was a teenager, all the things I couldn't buy as a teenager because they were too expensive, now that I'm in my 30s and 40s,
Mhm.
I do have some money at my disposal, and I'm gonna buy the things I couldn't buy as a kid. You see it in things like GI Joes and Star Wars figures. You see it in things like Don Mattingly and Jose Canseco. They're incredibly popular these days, and the price has been going up because everyone's trying to buy what they couldn't have as a kid. And Jordan kind of falls in that same line. You know, what if you didn't experience him as an athlete back then, it's new to you. But if you did, you remember what it was like. It's natural, even if you're not a collector, to want something to remind you of your childhood. So I think that market is kind of here to stay. Like I said, I don't know if this upward rise can last forever, but there is a good long term. This could keep continue to rise in price, especially when it's associated with someone like Jordan.
Totally. Are rookies like buying, this year, last year before that, basketball or baseball, football, whatever rookie, is that a terrible investment?
No, you can buy a card that's cool. You can buy a card that's super hard to get or super rare. But when it comes to rookie cards, everyone wants the first card of some player. That demand will likely never change. And the great thing about rookie cards is that there are different levels these days. I mean, there's a rookie card that comes out of a $5 pack, and there's one that comes out of a $1,000 pack. And both of them are rookies, and they're just appealing to different price points. I mean, look, a Ferrari has four wheels, just like a Volkswagen. But not everyone can
Mhm.
afford a Ferrari, but Volkswagen still sells cars. So it's there's always going to be a level of which someone's going to desire a certain card. I mean, common Kobe rookies are $20, $30, and then there's the Chrome rookie that's thousands of dollars. We don't have a problem selling the cheap cards, because not everyone can play in that certain level, and so they're perfectly content to collect at what their budget allows. So rookie cards are always going to be a good buy as long as the player does well, doesn't get hurt.
Totally. Do you think, like, obviously, we were talking about how much the industry has grown even just in this year alone, but And maybe that's just because people are home, or it's just in addition to the push that was already happening. But how much bigger do you think it's going to be, and how should those who are watching this that are trying to like get a hang of what to buy and what to invest in, how should people take advantage of that?
Well, when you think about how much bigger it's going to get, I'm going to try to fit my hands in the screen here. So this right here is the entire population of the United States. Let's just go with that. And then this, just a little closer, those are all the sports fans. But this right there are all the collectors. And that's the reason why most people don't think much about sports cards. I mean, I tell people what I do for a living, they don't know what to think. They shake their head like, you make a living doing that? And it's
Right.
borderline insulting, but I've been getting this my whole life. Now, if you think about all these collectors, if Jordan helps this grow to like that, well then that's a huge increase in the amount of collectors out there. It makes David Adams more money. It'll make me more money. But and the feverish pitch of which people are going to want to consume the collectibles that are out there, it would be so great that I could spend every day of the year on the road just trying to find stuff to sell. You know, so if this documentary really hits home with a lot of people, and they all, or just some of them decide, I want to start collecting sports cards and sports memorabilia, it's going to be a great next, I don't know how many years, because you can finally tap into that sports fan market to turn into sports collectors.
Totally. And I think just right now, there are so many things going on at once. While nothing is going on, it's like LeBron is going because everyone's wondering whether whether the NBA is gonna come back and he's gonna win a title with LA, be the first player to win MVP on three different teams. Like Kawhi Leonard, same thing. Is he gonna be the first player to win, MVP on three different Finals MVP on three different teams? And then you've got Giannis, who's trying to win his first. And is his value going to continue going up, or is it going to drop? And now the new guy who's hot is Kevin Durant, because people are starting to realize how undervalued he's been. So I just think right now, and I'm really looking forward to when we come out of this, but is just so incredibly hot, and I find it hard to imagine it getting hotter. But like you said, it's going to. Like, there's no two ways about it, because of half the world is sports fans, and this is as close to the game as you can get. When you're you and I.
And there's always something pushing it. We're talking about all these players who are veterans who've been around for a while. Every year there's a new rookie class of everything. I mean, football looks like it's going to play. I'm crossing my fingers, but there's a rookie class loaded with skill position players, receivers and running backs and quarterbacks. And then it's going to happen again in 2021. There's always something new to help push it. Everyone likes rookies. Part of it is the speculation aspect of it. Whether or not you think sports cards or sports collectibles are a good investment, it's hard to ignore the finding the diamond in the rough and be able to get a good return on your investment because it's a hunch, because someone you're a fan of or someone you believe in. It's what drives the sports card market. Sports card collecting is one thing. Sports card investing is another thing. And, you can kind of do both. And some people push one aside, some people push the other aside. But that's what drives it, is that the people who get in it thinking that it's an investment. The money pours in like crazy.
Got it. Now, what kind of off of that, what to you makes a genuine collector?
A genuine collector, huh? Well, I guess the first thing would you don't believe in price guides. Like, you have no reason to open a Beckett to justify what you have. A genuine collector knows their budget of what they can afford to collect, and they stick to it. A genuine collector, to me, doesn't feel the need to open $1,000 boxes, regardless of how much money you make or how much money you're worth. But that's not what drives the hobby. It's the money and the investor helps drive the hobby. It's tough. There are a lot of collectors out there who feel slighted because they don't think that they're important. Because everyone's trying to follow the money. Vintage collectors is a little different because they're just buying stuff to have. They don't have to have PSA 8, PSA 9 cards. They're perfectly happy finding, PSA 5s for the collection or buying cards raw. That's the true collector. But it's hard, especially in this country. Everything revolves around money. We're a capitalistic society. To ignore it it's almost impossible. If it wasn't that way, I couldn't do this as a living.
Mm-hmm.
I need the investor. I need that person to want to help propel the market. If we were all just collectors, cards wouldn't be so expensive. They'd still be a couple bucks a pack. And then I know for sure that I couldn't do this as a living.
Got it. That's really interesting. Now, my final question here, what is your piece of advice to anybody who wants to become a collector? Somebody young who has never collected before, who has never either collected or invested before. What would your advice to somebody like that be?
All right, we touched on some of those things already. Number one is obviously stick to a budget. If you can afford to collect at any level, but don't let your collecting habits get in the way of paying your bills. I've done this so long, I've seen it happen. I've seen people go broke because they get their collecting. It becomes too important. It becomes an addiction. You got to stay within your budget. You can't afford everything. I can't. And there's no reason why anyone thinks that they can, because there's always something more that you're going to want to buy. So if you stick to your budget and then collect what you like, don't let an article or what's hot or what people are telling you determine what or dictate what you want to buy. Of the players that I've collected over the years, it's because I like the player. It's not because of the money involved. Everyone can collect Jordan, and that may not be as fun as collecting something else you like. Like Ron Artest, for example. When I was buying it, and even when I find stuff from time to time, I'm not exactly competing against a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
That helps keep it affordable. So find some sort of theme. Collect your favorite team, your favorite players. Just do it for fun. Don't let it get serious. Once you start thinking about the investment potential or letting the money or the possibility of making money, cloud your judgment, then you become an investor or you become, like a part-time dealer. It may not be so fun. There are a lot of people who got into this over the years, become dealers, and did not enjoy the experience, either because of the way it ate up the time, the amount of time it took up out of their life, or by the way their business ended. Whether it failed or whatever. Once you start thinking that way, it's not as fun. I just happen to enjoy my job because I have a unique position within the hobby of what I do.
No, I like that. I think that's all really great advice and a very different perspective from most of the people we've had on. And I really love and appreciate that. So thank you.
Sure.
Without any further ado, just wanted to thank you again. And that's the show.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you again to every single one of you who just tuned in. Make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment, and tune in next time. Big thank you once again to Reed Kasaoka for tuning in, and thank you to David Adams as well. See ya.